Hello, everybody, and welcome to Translating Your Professional History into Your New Future, brought to you by the June Anderson Center for Women and Non-Traditional Students here on campus in the Student Union. Our presenters today and co-sponsors are from the Career Development Center, Kathy Irons and Vanessa Darby. There will be resources listed for your reference at the end if you have any questions. Kathy and Vanessa, I will hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Kendall. We're glad to be here and just excited to partner with the June Anderson Center. I want to give special thanks also to Vanessa, who's joined us today as a career marketing and branding professional. And we met several years ago when she was a student at MTSU. So I will let her introduce herself in just a moment. I want to let you know that the Career Development Center is here to serve you now as a student and forever in the future as an alum. We do basically three things. First thing is what we call career development or planning. So that's us helping you decide what you want to do, what is purposeful work and a meaningful life for you. We take a very holistic view as to how you can meet your personal goals and honor your values in the world of work. Number two thing we do is job search or graduate school application coaching. So that hands-on preparation work to get you ready for your next step. The number three thing we do is called employer relations. That means we've got a team designated to help employers connect with you for paid internships, part-time and full-time opportunities, as well as on-campus work. You can find all of our resources online at mtsu.edu/career. And I will tell you a little bit about myself and then let Vanessa tell us about her. I have been on campus since January of 2012 as a non-traditional student. Had the unexpected blessing of unemployment that landed me here and as a transfer student and fell in love with the campus immediately and was introduced to the Career Development Center by a dear friend who was a professor at the time and a career advisor. I had come to MTSU to finish my business education degree in corporate training and development and discovered that I could make a career of training and developing students. Who knew that was a thing? So I've been on campus, right? So I've been on campus helping students get ready for the world of work and helping them make decisions. And in this office since August of 2012, for the most part, I've held several different positions here and currently serve as the assistant director for career development, which means I have the distinct honor not only of continuing to work directly with students, but also get to train and mentor our professional staff who do the same. Since our office serves every academic college at the university, it requires a lot of teamwork. So in my journey, I was a career advisor for the Jones College of Business, and that's how Vanessa and I met. She was referred by a faculty member, and we hit it off immediately. So it's my distinct pleasure and excitement to have her join us today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I mean, with that introduction, I put myself on mute because we have a tendency to jump in and just get started talking. So, thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited not only to be here to talk about branding and to talk about marketing and recareering. It's something that I have done in my own life and career, but also because I'm a product of MTSU. I've received my graduate degree from the Jones College of Business in Management with a focus in organizational leadership. And I also was going to recareer and ended up sticking in my career after talking to Kathy. So we'll get into that. I know that you all can't necessarily see us in real time, but I still want to make sure that you have this great energy. I think that you all are going to learn a lot, not just from me, but just from some shared experiences that both Kendall and Kathy will bring to the table. So if you like what you're hearing, please reach out to both centers and let them know so that they can continue to create programming that's in alignment with what you need. So, without further ado, we're going to get started. And once again, grab your phone, grab your pen, grab your paper, whatever you need to take notes, because we want to make sure that you get the most out of this presentation. So a little bit about me. I own a company called Moxie Nashville, which is an online consulting agency specializing in social media and business management. So I get to work with a lot of creative people who really need business structure. That's a fancy way to say that, right? So oftentimes we are in these career fields and people may not have some of the strategy that they need. And me and my team are able to come in, shake things up a little bit, and then leave on out. So I get to work with a lot of different people from for-profit, nonprofit industries, as well as the music industry, which is where I got my start. I also teach entrepreneurship in the arts at Tennessee State University, so I get to do it on a collegiate level as well. Once again, I am a product of MTSU, so all of the true blue is running through my veins as well. I've received my undergraduate degree from Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois, where I got my degree in business management as well. I also have some certifications in online marketing and social media. So we're going to get all of that in here in the next 30 minutes or so. So that's just a little spiel so you know who I am and why we're talking about branding. Now, what is branding and why should we care? Right? So a lot of times people say, I am my brand and, be your own brand. But what really does that mean? So branding actually originated from people who were herding cattle. And so in order to identify their own herd, they would put, an iron stamp on there to say, hey, this is my property of my cattle. In the online community and in the marketing community, we do the same thing. We identify ourselves and our products and our services and our reputation by the brand that we put out. So it's more than just your logo. It's more than just a resume. It's more than just a website. Your branding is literally your online and offline presence. And so the reason you should really care about that is because you want to make sure that even when you're not in the room, that your brand can stand on its own. And that actually leads me into a quote from Karen Jackson, who is the senior director of marketing at Thomas Nelson Books. She said, someone once told me this: branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room. All right. So go ahead, Kathy. I see you jumping in. Would love to.
Well, so I just want to say one of my favorite quotes
Yes.
is, in addition to that every interaction is an interview as well.
Yes.
And so just being consistent and knowing that every interaction you express your brand.
I love that. Make sure y'all put a star by that too. Okay. Every interaction is an interview, right? So when you do meet someone, whether it's in an elevator, whether you are actually interviewing for a position, you never know. There have been people that I have worked with and even hired that I had 1 to 2 interactions with, but it was just such a pleasant interaction. Kathy and I can also attest to that in our own working relationship. From the first time I came into her office, my life was in shambles, y'all. My career life, essentially. I wanted to re-career, but I didn't really know how. And so Kathy worked with me and we ended up staying in the marketing field. I was pivoting into human resources, but she, taught me how to bring in some of the things that I do into my business. And so that was super beneficial. And we're going to talk about that, how you can do that as well today. So speaking of starting over, what do you need to have in your re-careering starter pack or your personal branding starter pack? And I also want to pause right here too, because we say starting over in the sense of re-careering, but you may also be building a parallel career. So not everyone is interested in being solely an entrepreneur or solely having loyalty to one job and nothing else. That was a lot of how the traditional working class really identified with their work. They introduced themselves by saying, my name is Vanessa Darby and I am insert whatever job title. Well, nowadays, a lot of people identify with their cause or they identify with their platform. They may not necessarily identify with their job title anymore. So even though we're saying starting over and re-careering, please know that these tools can be used to build parallel careers as well. So in the words of, how we say in online, you can have your cake and eat it too. Kathy,
Right?
some feedback?
I want to add to that
Yes.
we just share with students all the time
Mhm.
that the current statistic is that the average American has 12 full-time jobs
Mm,
in his or her adult working life.
yeah.
12, y'all, that's the average.
Mm,
So no longer is it expected that anyone's going to graduate and work for one company and in one role the
right.
rest of their career. It's
Right.
completely normal to start over or
Mhm,
to have these parallel careers.
mhm,
I would expect
yeah.
everyone to be doing that. I
Mhm,
I had a career in restaurant, retail, and large scale athletic event management
mm,
before I started working at MTSU.
mhm.
And I want to tell you, I think I'm already 12 full-time jobs in. And and not trying to slow down either.
Right, right.
So I want to normalize that experience for you all, that
Yeah.
it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's
Mm,
completely normal.
mhm.
And we've got some great tools to support you and how to express what you bring to the table.
Right. Oh, that's so good because a lot of times we think we're going to retire and get that gold watch.
Mm.
When to Kathy's point, you can get 12 gold watches. Okay. so, so it really depends on how you approach and how you believe in yourself and how you
Mhm.
present yourself to other people. And even in my own career, even when I was working in the music industry, I still was building. It wasn't called Moxie Nashville back then. It was just me doing freelance work. I still was building my reputation of being this
Mhm.
marketer on the side. And so that's really what I ended up pivoting into when I recareered, was doing something I had done all the time, just under a different name. So I love that point, because the world is changing, and
Mhm.
you need to make sure that you have something of your own, as well as working with your employer if that's what you desire to do.
Preach.
So here we go. Here's some things that you're going to need. And this is just the starter pack, you all. So don't think that this is the end all be all or that this list is exhaustive. It is not. So, one thing you really do want, and I want to stress this, is that you want a high resolution photo or headshot. And I know we get away with doing selfies. I get it. I get it. But you want to make sure that even if you are doing a selfie, put it on a tripod, put it on a counter. Make sure that you have a well lit area that people can see your face and see from your waist up, or see even from your shoulders up, may not necessarily your waist, but from your shoulders up, that you have a nice crispy headshot. I say crispy because I like it to be outlined, but you have a nice headshot, because oftentimes that is an example of your level of professionalism. Especially you want to make sure the headshot looks like you. So if you've lost the weight, if your hair is a different color, if those sort of things have changed, make sure you don't have a headshot from 1973 and it's in 2021. So headshot should be current and it should be crispy. All right. Go
And
ahead,
it
Kathy.
should definitely not be a car selfie. I have been known
Oh,
to LinkedIn direct message people asking them to change their car selfie from their profile
ooh.
photo.
Mm.
Don't do that.
If Kathy sends you a DM, it's not a good thing. It is not a good thing. And that's such a good point. And even, I mean, we're going to stay here just because I feel led to drive this point home. Some photos where you kind of crop yourself out, but you can still see someone else's shoulder. Don't let that be your story. Okay. Don't let that be your story. Try to find, and if nothing else, take your cell phone, ask somebody, maybe a family member or a friend, get in front of a white wall. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just get in front of a white wall or a solid color background and ask them to take a photo, and that can hold you until you go get a professional photographer to take your photo. So it doesn't have to be super super expensive. Especially if you're using Instagram or something like that, some of those filters, you all, are baby photoshops. Okay. So definitely make sure that you have a nice high resolution photo, and to Kathy's point, that it is populated on all of your social media platforms. Also, you want to have a bio or an updated career history. So this goes in conjunction with your resume and cover letter, because oftentimes, just like right now, people are asking you to do presentations, or they're asking a little bit more about you, or you may need something for your social media platforms, like your LinkedIn bio, like your Instagram bio. So go ahead and draft a little bit of a little bio about yourself, and if you need to include new things about your career or how you're seeking other opportunities in another career, make sure that's listed so that when people see your name, they start to identify you with the career industry that you want to be in. Kathy, do you have some feedback on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We teach students to start your LinkedIn profile or bio statement with whatever your current branding statement is on your resume. You want that to be the same message across platforms.
Mhm.
And yes, to your point, you want it to be updated with your goals as well as not just what you've already accomplished, but
Right.
what you're moving toward. It's really important to include that too.
Yes. And you can draft this, you all. We're going to talk about some writing resources as well, but you can draft this because no one knows you better than you, right? So no one knows your skill level, your skill set, and what your talent and your tools that you can bring to the table better than you. So go ahead and draft something, and then you can have someone else look it over. Add a couple 2 cents, and then go on your merry way.
I'm going to jump in again and
Please.
say that for a lot of our students, they will come in and say,
Mhm.
I don't really know what I do well. And
Mhm.
so my recommendations are always to consult any previous performance evaluations
Great.
from your work history. Absolutely do that.
Mhm.
If you really feel like you don't know, then send out a survey to your family and send out a survey to your friends and your previous employers and
Yes.
simply ask,
Love it.
right?
Love it. That's such an actionable step that you can take right now. Have 3 to 5 people that you're going to reach out to via text or email and
Mhm.
send them a question of use 3 words to describe me. Or go
Yes.
go back through those like Kathy mentioned, those employer evaluations. That's where I found some of my great atta girl compliments that talked about personality, talked about presentation skills. When that was just something that I inherently was blessed with, but I didn't hone until I realized that people actually pointed it out to me. So I love that. Also, social media platforms that are relevant to your job search. So please know, and I will turn over to Kathy for this. Employers look at your social media. Okay, they look at your social media. But the beautiful thing about social media is that you can curate what you want people to see. There are people that live a jet lifestyle that do not even own a car. Okay, and you would never know. You would never know they don't have a private jet, in their backyard. So you want to make sure that your social media platforms, especially things like LinkedIn and even anything that is public. So if you don't have anything that's private, anything that's public, that it is curated specifically for what you want people to see. I always tell people if you don't want anything to come back to you, don't put it on the internet. Right. So we are a snapshot, a screen grab, or a screen record away from having all of our party pictures come right back to us. Right. So make sure you clean up your social media and that you have nice photos that speak to who you are in a professional sense.
Agreed. I will add that you also want to be very intentional
Mm,
about who you friend on
yes.
social media.
Mhm.
It- If you're like me, sometimes you're off social media for weeks at a time,
Mhm.
and you never know who's going to post something on your wall that you haven't seen. And
Yes.
it could be something completely inappropriate or not professional or
Mhm.
politically motivated.
Mhm.
With the pandemic and the tragedies that
Yeah.
happened last year
Mhm.
specifically, and then you had the most divisive political arena we've ever
Yeah.
experienced.
Yeah.
You really have to be conservative
Mhm.
about how you or who you allow to access your platforms.
For sure, for sure. And it doesn't have to be anything illegal, unethical, or
Mhm,
immoral. It could just
mhm.
be something that's unprofessional, right? So
Absolutely.
so you definitely have a personal life, but you don't, like I said, you don't want anything to come back that could jeopardize your reputation. That's really what we're getting here.
Yep. Agreed.
Also, and this is really for a lot of people who have their own business already, or maybe you're into creative or artistic industries. If you have a website or landing page, you want to make sure that it's up to date. And I'll give you a perfect example. Kathy knew when I was interviewing with a company. And one thing that they did in my interview was that they asked me, "Oh, I see your website. Did you use the WordPress template for this? Was this for work?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I did, but I was interviewing for a marketing position. And so the first thing they did was Google me and see what platform I was hosting my website on. And they loved it, and everyone, and I went through, Kathy knows, I went through, I think it was 14 people that interviewed me on that last interview. And the top 3 people talked about my website, my clients that I already had for my existing business, and they asked me why was I there. Right. And so it was almost a good thing that shot me in the foot later, but it was a great thing because they were able to see my brand and the level of professionalism that I could bring to their organization. And they also knew that it was so strong that I could stand on my own. And I was using that job as a cop out. But we're not here to talk about me. But if you do own something, you want to make sure that you have a website or at least a landing page. And even if you don't, I remember being an undergrad, and my name is Vanessa Darby, and people used to call me V Darby. And one of my mentors created vdarby.com. It's no longer in existence, so don't look for it. But he created vdarby.com and literally just had a logo and a little blurb about me being a college student seeking opportunities in the business space. And it was great. So when people Googled me, there was something that came up. It wasn't anything super, super flashy, but I just secured vdarby.com, went on to secure vanessiadarby.com and those things. But at least have something so that when employers Google you, that they know that you're aware of your own online presence. And lastly, this is for people who maybe are sending out messages, or you do have a following that's already established. You may want an email service provider. So what that means is that you send out emails in bulk. So if you are sending out, I used to send out motivational emails. If maybe you're a blogger, or maybe you are even selling something, you want to make sure that you have your own email service provider. So those could be things like MailChimp, Constant Contact, Emma, ConvertKit, those sort of platforms, because sometimes people do sign up for your email list. And I know for me, I send out a lot of good news on my email list. And so people know, hey, Vanessa is working on this, or her company is doing that. So it's a great way to stay in communication, even in a professional realm.
I will also add that you want to be cognizant of your email address. So if you're not using an email server, please ensure that whatever your current email address is, that it is professional.
Yes.
Such as, don't put Hobbit Lover 1983. I'm not kidding. We had a student send in a resume last year, and the student said, I can't get a call back from anyone for an interview. Will you please take a resume? Look, tell me what's wrong with my resume. And immediately like, well, you said you're a
Right.
Hobbit lover on your resume. Please don't do that.
Yes, yes. And you can never go wrong with using your name. Your name is something that you'll have with you for the rest of your life. And so, you can always do first name dot last name at gmail.com. Gmail is it's free, first and foremost, but also it integrates with a lot of different platforms too. And so people recognize it. It is very suitable. But like Kathy said, no baby girl 88. We're not doing that. Okay. Baby girl 88 at Ymail, so make sure that your email is professional as well. And if you have a website or landing page, you can actually get an email associated with your web hosting platform too. All right. So now we're going to talk about our online virtual world, because especially with everything that happened in the pandemic and things that are going on in interview spaces, you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward, whether it's in person or online. So we're going to talk about a few things that you can do to increase your online communication setting. So we want to talk about some things that you should do and just be mindful of when you are interviewing. So the very first thing, I have a couple things on each slide. I'm moving things around if you could tell. I have a couple things on each slide, and there's going to always be a key takeaway in the left-hand column. So the key takeaway from this slide is always, always, always do a tech rehearsal. Okay, do a tech rehearsal. The thing about being online is that there's so many things that can go wrong. There's so many things. I was having a classroom presentation for TSU, and the power went out. Literally in the middle of teaching, the power just goes out. So here's some things that you may want to do, some from my own experience. If you're using a Wi-Fi connection, make sure that it's stable. So if you have to have, that Ethernet cord that plugs into the wall, go ahead and get that, to make sure that your internet is stable. If you're noticing that a lot of things are buffering, you may have too many devices in your home. So if you're living with maybe a spouse or maybe children or grandchildren or relatives, you want to make sure that if they have their cell phone, their iPad, their computer, their laptop all hooked up, and you're all trying to use the same bandwidth, it may cut into your online experience. Okay. So there's nothing worse than trying to answer, why are you a great asset to this company? And all you hear is, right? Make sure that your Wi-Fi connection is stable. Also, these are just little things, you all, that will really up level your online experience. Wipe your camera off. So a lot of times we're using webcams. Here's my webcam up here. I'm not going to touch it because we don't want greasy fingers, but our hands carry oil. So when we are doing things like closing our laptops or we're opening our laptops, sometimes the oil will get on that camera, and you just want to make sure that you have a nice, clean aesthetic. You can actually just use a damp paper towel. You can use a little terry cloth, but just wipe your camera off so people can see you and see you in your full element and glory. All right. Also, do not join a conversation or an interview while you're driving unless you're dialing in the audio only version. And I put this on here. You'd be surprised how many people join a Zoom call in the car. All right. That is a safety hazard, you all. So just like we shouldn't be texting and driving, we should not be watching a webinar and driving. If you're watching it right now, turn it off. You can watch it at home. Okay. So we should not be joining in a conversation and driving. If you are dialing in, you're using your hands-free, dial in when you're sitting in the parking lot, and then, hook up your hands-free headphones and go ahead and get on the road. But just make sure that you're being safe, because that is also a level of your brand and reputation you want to protect. Also, try to join virtual meetings on a desktop or laptop rather than an iPad or a phone. Although Zoom and a lot of these different platforms are mobile friendly, you get the full functionality when you are on a desktop or laptop. So there may be a share screen feature that you need to use that you can't use on your iPad, or that it's not compatible with PowerPoint, only compatible with PDF. Save yourself the trouble. Go ahead and pop up on your laptop or your desktop and join in that way. And then also, MTSU has the Career Center big interview platform that I'm going to let Kathy talk about because she can really speak to it.
Thanks. I'm going to share my screen and then we'll
Awesome.
pop back. So from our website, the homepage, mtsu.edu/career, if you click on this internship and job search button from the homepage, there are lots of different ways to get to this page. And the platform specifically I want you to see is called Big Interview. This is a mock interview program, which is essential. Not only does Big Interview have a great collection of tutorial videos, for example, you can learn about how to craft your tell me about yourself or your branding statement and incorporate your career competencies. Big Interview allows you to choose either a beginner level, an intermediate level. You can choose industry specific interviews, or simply just practice answering the tell me about yourself. Right, super helpful because we know the virtual environment is here to stay, particularly for interviews. Everybody's comfortable with it now. So first round interviews should almost be expected to be conducted via Zoom. And this will have a pre-recorded person pop up on camera to ask you a question, and then you hit record to answer. And Big Interview currently has an artificial intelligence feature, if you will, baked in that measures the number of times you use filler words. It measures what your eye contact looks like. It gives you a metric as far as the level of your vocabulary is concerned. So really an essential tool to use in practicing interview communication and camera presence.
I love that. And Kathy, I know some people are also having like your first round of interviews be pre-recorded. Are they still doing that too?
Yeah, some companies do that. Absolutely. We, matter of fact, have an alum who reached out and said, I have bought the license to something called HireView, and it is for recorded video interviews. Where can we use that at MTSU? And ironically, it was right before the pandemic, and you know how that goes. Everybody was a little bit nervous about it. But I would say the bigger the company or the more remote the opportunity, the more likely you are to need that the ability to answer on camera in real time, as well as be prepared for those pre-recorded interviews.
Yeah, and I thought it was so funny because someone asked me, they're like, how should I answer this? Because I have like a limited time. I think it was about 2 or 3 minutes to answer the question. So you're nervous because there's a timestamp. You have to make sure you get all the answers. You have one practice run, then you're automatically hitting record. So there's a lot of things that can be happening during an interview that traditionally didn't happen. That we didn't have to go, we could use filler words and it wasn't that big of a deal. But now we can practice with things like Big Interview. So thank you for sharing that and screen sharing. That was great.
Of course.
Also, when we talk about audio, the key takeaway here is that you want to make sure your audience or your interview panel can hear you. So consider using an external microphone or headphones and make sure they look discreet. I'm going to do a little behind the scenes magic here. So I have a microphone. I know I just got really loud. I'm sorry. I have a microphone. And you can actually hear the difference when the mic is not in front of me. So if you do have an external microphone or headphones, make sure that they are plugged in and that they don't look super duper crazy. I'm going to show you what I mean here. If you have extra cords, just hanging around and doing all these different things, make sure you can tuck your cords in a blazer and practice doing that. Actually practice and see. Kathy, you got yours tucked? Make sure you can go in and see what you're looking like, right? So when you show up on camera, it's not a surprise to everyone, including you. Also, recording in a quiet space without echoes. So sometimes we have these large rooms or high ceilings and the sound bounces off and hits the mic and we get that feedback sound, right? So you may want to have headphones or make sure you're just recording in a nice quiet space that will allow you to speak out loud without hearing the feedback. Also, minimize any external noises. So you may have your phone buzzing, you may have a microwave, there could be toilets flushing if you live with multiple people. You may be like me and have certain robots in your house that go off if you say their name out loud. So all of that can disturb your interview experience. Additionally, if you're like me and you take notes, you can hear when you're on a desk, especially if you have an external mic. So that's me tapping on my desk and even me hitting my keyboard. So you really want to make sure that you understand how much external noise is coming in, because all of that is distracting to someone who's listening to you talk and trying to see if you're the best fit for this job. Don't give them any sort of leeway to count you out. Make sure that you're in a space where you can record and speak loudly and speak professionally. Also, last thing, you want to put your phone or computer on do not disturb. So if you're an Apple girl like me, you really want to make sure that your computer's on do not disturb, because your text messages will come through. And so if you're screen sharing like we are now, people can see what you're texting about. I usually put my phone on do not disturb and I put it on the floor. If you put it on vibrate, again, you have it on the desk, people can hear that. So just think about if your phone is vibrating and it's on the desk and you're answering a question, people may not even hear you because they're thinking, what's that sound, right? Lastly, we're going to talk about lighting. So this is my favorite part, if you haven't noticed. So lighting is a great way to really enhance your visual presence. You want to make sure your audience can actually see you. So I'm going to lean forward here and expose my little ring light situation. So as you can tell, we can get real lights, camera action over here, right? So if you're using artificial light, which means it's not lighting that's produced by the sun, maybe it's a floor lamp or a table lamp or even a ring light, just make sure that you have the lighting in front of you. If you are using natural light, which is the cheapest because it's free and it's honestly the best because you don't have to filter it, make sure that you are actually sitting in front of the window and that the window's in front of you. So if you have the window or the light behind you, it casts a shadow and no one can see your beautiful face. They're only going to see a nice little silhouette. Make sure that you put the lighting in front of you. And if you're using extra lighting, that you close all your windows so that you can control the light. So if you're saying, hey, I'm going to set up right here from this big, beautiful window in my house, open the blinds and see how much more opening, I shouldn't say opening, how much brighter you look when you are on camera. And so people don't have to squint and see, where you are. A lot of times we get that wrong. We put the lighting behind us and people really can't see our features. And also, if you're wearing glasses and you do have artificial light, note that you can see the reflection of the light in your lenses. So I have my little blue blocker frames on here. And as you can tell, my little ring light is all exposed, right? So I'm exposing my behind the scenes. So make sure that you do your best to position your lighting. If you do have artificial light and you're wearing glasses, position your lighting so that it can't really be seen because that is distracting to the people that are watching. Or if you're using natural light or contacts, that you make sure you do a test and see how you're looking on camera.
I saw a web video
Mhm.
about lighting specifically for video purposes. And for those of us who don't have the fancy ring light, one of the suggestions was just to take a lamp and literally place it behind your computer,
Yep.
because then the light will emanate from around the screen.
I love that. Yeah, I was the floor lamp queen back in the day. Okay, so you don't have to have fancy lighting. You can literally, like Kathy mentioned, grab a lamp, just and then it'll be be out of camera, really be in front of you, so behind the camera, and make sure that you're well lit. Perfect example. And then it's another last little tidbit that you want to limit distraction. So just like in person, you want to make sure you have that eye contact. So I'm looking directly at my camera right now. A lot of us, even if you're using your phone, you want to look at the lens and not look at yourself. If I was down here reading, if you look at yourself, you will appear to be looking off to the side and not making eye contact. It would be weird, right? So you want to practice, especially if you do presentations, you want to practice looking down and coming right back up, and looking down again and coming right back up. If you have like your chat window up, or if you're doing a live presentation where people can be in the audience, you want to let them know, hey guys, I'm looking at you in the chat. It looks like you guys are saying ABC 1, 2, 3, and then come right back to this camera. So make sure that you do make eye contact and use some of the AI tools that Kathy mentioned to see how you're doing. And also, this is a little fun fact. Oftentimes a camera lens resembles an eyeball. So if you look at your camera lens, you can actually see what looks like your cornea. Make sure you're making that eye contact and that people can see you and make eye contact with you. And then we already talked about putting your phone and computer on do not disturb, but also if you are presenting, practice screen sharing. I know it can be a little daunting to share your screen and be talking and moving around and making it look easy, but you want to make sure that you understand how to click back and forth if you're using a whole bunch of different features. I teach online, so I'm pretty used to Zoom, but when people were migrating on Zoom last year with the pandemic, it was not a smooth transition, okay? So make sure that you understand what can be distracting, especially if you're doing some sort of tutorial or your interviewers want you to do some sort of presentation. Always do a rehearsal and always do a run through, especially with screen sharing. And you can even set up a practice room and invite your family. Say, hey guys, can you come in and type in the chat, or can you respond so I know what this looks like in real time? Oh, okay, then we're getting to the good stuff. So here are some resources on campus. Kathy, you want to talk about the Career Development Center?
Would love to. And actually, I think this is a great time to give a 30,000-foot view, if you will, of rebranding and recareering. I like to tell students right out of the gate that any experience is better than no experience. You are the expert on you, and an experience changes everything. So while you may be with us to do something completely different than you've done in the past, keep in mind that you've gained a lot of transferable or soft skills and what our national association calls the career competencies. So I'm going to share with you on screen the NACE career competencies. This is a great way for you to have a checklist, if you will. So I'm going to provide Kendall and the June Anderson Center with the checklist of the career competencies where you can rate yourself. And just keep in mind, again, that no matter what you've done and what you're doing in the future, basically this is a master list of the skills that you have gained inside the classroom and outside of the classroom that you can speak to, that you have in an interviewing process, in your professional communication, any interaction with a potential employer. And again, any interaction is an interview, so you never know. For example, I didn't know I'd end up working at the Career Center when I first met my professor / career advisor. But be aware that you have some skills that you can speak to. The standard NACE career competencies, which means these are the 8 skills that you might have heard called soft skills or transferable skills. I like to call them the power skills, because this is what you need to bring to the table no matter what you're doing. And you've seen a lot of these in the classroom already. A lot of this language comes from the academic arena, such as the critical thinking and problem solving, the communication skills, teamwork and collaboration. If anyone gets tired of those group assignments, this girl did. That's why we know teamwork and collaboration is important. Digital technology. Vanessa has done a great job of giving us some wonderful practical advice in that digital technology arena. Super important. Leadership, professionalism. Again, that goes back to today's presentation. All of this really has been about presenting your professional brand. I'm going to skip down to the bottom, the global and cultural fluency,
Mhm.
I think we can all agree this past year has really moved the entire globe closer to a greater understanding and support of each other.
Mhm.
And you definitely want to be prepared to speak about how you interact and love your fellow humans.
Mhm.
And then the career management, which is, it kind of encompasses all of this, because career management is all about articulating your strengths, your knowledge, your expertise, your
Mhm.
relevant experiences, and presenting yourself in the best way possible, representing your brand consistently. So I think the NACE career competencies are a really great list to familiarize yourself with, to speak to in your professional communication, your online presence, anything that you're branding and bringing to the table. That is a great list of the terms
Mhm.
that are widely recognized. So
Yeah.
the Career Development Center, I will tell you, has a wealth of resources online. We just glanced at the website directly.
Mhm.
Again, that's mtsu.edu/career.
Mhm.
We're located in the Keithley University Center in Suite 328. We are in the office year round and Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and love to meet all students and alumni where you are.
Mhm.
You can call, you can email, you can schedule an appointment for us to meet on Zoom, or you can stop by the office. And I look forward to any opportunity to interact with you.
Love it. Yeah. And please, like, this is what a perk that you get with your tuition,
Mhm.
So please utilize these resources, especially because you want to make sure you put your best foot forward when you do go seeking out employment.
Mhm.
Also, Kendall, do you want to talk about the June Anderson Center for Women and Non-Traditional Students?
Yes, we serve any student who considers themselves non-traditional or women on campus. So that may be a veteran or a student returning to campus after 5 years of not being on any campus. So we serve them in any sort of capacity, whether they need legal assistance, whether they're parents and they need the lactation room that is right next door. We serve them in any capacity. We have scholarships for them. We have an honor society that they can join. We're really just here to be a resource for them. And in that capacity, we provide resources like this webinar um, and help them to develop a career that may be changing. So, like myself, I used to be a filmmaker and then now I'm in public health. So, my career is totally changing. And so, I'm a non traditional student returning to campus. And so, I represent those students. And so, we're just here as a resource for them. And um, in that way, we're just here for them in any capacity. And so, yeah.
That's great. And I want you all to hear, both Kendall, Kathy, and myself, all Kendall, Kathy, and myself, all three of us, I should say, we've all been where you are. Like, you've all been where you are. So it's one thing to have the resources, but it's also another thing to have staff and faculty who understand and have been in your position. So please don't ever feel like you shouldn't come. Please come and please utilize these resources. Everyone is ready and willing to help you. And it's really a testament to MTSU when they provide resources and staff that look and sound just like you. So don't ever feel like you're ashamed or anything like that to come utilize these resources, because that is what they are there for. Also on campus, there's the University Writing Center. So when we talked about your bio, right, we talked about even your resume. You can go back and forth between developing what's a good LinkedIn bio, on with the University Writing Center. Kathy, do you have some feedback on that?
I was going to add that it's important to have all your professional documents and communication
Ooh,
reviewed by multiple sources.
yes.
And so we see thousands of resumes and cover letters, are
Mhm.
less familiar with professional statements here. So we love for students to work with both the Career Development Center and the University Writing Center, because they're the content and grammar experts. And so you will get the best of both worlds by using both the Writing Center and the Career Development Center.
Yes. And for
And
some,
then Kendall, I'm sorry, Kendall can also
Yes.
look at your resume and be like, yeah, this is rocking or not.
Yes.
Definitely have multiple people
Mhm.
look at your communication.
And even if you're at, we're talking about resources here. If you have
Mhm.
additional resources in your own personal professional life, especially if you have like a mentor that has the job that you
Mhm.
want or is in the industry that you want, after everything's reviewed here, you should have your whole little team, your whole little review team. After it's reviewed here, send it out to a couple people, get some feelers and see, okay, does this make sense in this industry or this position that I'm going for? But having a strategic and targeted team, especially Kathy and Kendall, and having them on your team, you're going to knock it out the park. So put all the odds in your favor. The last thing I want to mention is the Tennessee Small Business Development Center is actually on campus as well. So again, when we talk about parallel careers, you have a wealth of resources right on campus that you can go in or even call in, Zoom in, wherever you are in this capacity when you're watching this webinar, that you can actually utilize just from being a student or an alum of MTSU. So again, another list that's not exhaustive. So if you know that there's more professors or there's more people that you can talk to on campus, start knocking on the doors and see virtually or in person and see how they can help you further your career. Well, looks like we're going to the end, y'all. So once again, my name is Vanessa Darby. I am the CEO and lead consultant of Moxie Nashville. I do want to thank you both, Kathy and Kendall, for inviting me here and being able to not only, again, be a product, but be able to turn back and tell people this is what you can do with the power of MTSU backing you. My contact information is listed on the screen. I'm pretty much everywhere on social. As you can tell, I do digital. So I'm pretty much everywhere on social. Feel free to reach out. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to help you and also to hear your story about how you're doing great things because of MTSU.
Thank you. It has been a delight to be online with you today.
Yeah, I love it. Anytime we get a chance to chat, it's always good.
Always.
So I'll turn it over back to Kendall or Kathy and to see what other resources that we have for you.
Thanks so much. I think Kendall has got a final slide to pop up with all of our specific campus contact information. And Kendall, I will let you close it out. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, both of you, for all of that really awesome information. I think that anyone can utilize those resources anytime. Every interaction is an interview. So I think that people can just take that little bit of information with them when they go. Here are our contact information as well as the Career Development Center's information, and share this presentation with a friend. It'll be going live in April. So thank you so much.